Back here in his usual Monday spot, the host of the highly popular Greenlight podcast, two-time Super Bowl champion, Chris Long, back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Chris?
Rich, what's up, man? Blueface went to the game yesterday. Did y'all see that in LA?
No, I didn't see that. Oh yes. Wait a minute. I did. Were you the ones? Did you give Blueface your tickets, or was it Blueface's?
Who gave Blueface the tickets?
Or Chris? Perhaps it was Blueface's +2.
Maybe.
Looked like a +4 to me. Yeah. There we go, guys.
Hey, that's the way to bring the energy.
I'm sure
the program.
I don't think Blueface is going to be asked back to SoFi.
I don't know about that. We know whose house he's in.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Hey,
could have used a terrible towel over some of that, you know?
It's a codpiece.
Blueface, baby.
All right. I don't think I've ever used the word codpiece in the history of this program.
We could check
I just did. All right. So, your take coming out of the Sunday night game is what, Chris? What do you got?
Well, first off, going into the Sunday night game, you're like, oh, Kansas City is still the best team in the AFC. Okay. And then you get into the Sunday night game, and there's a lot of talk about the Eagles, how they're not as good. And I would agree. Like, I think it's a little bit more uphill, a little tougher sledding this year than it was last year, but they still play a style of football that it's just hard to deal with if you're like the Miami Dolphins. And, I know the penalties didn't go their way. Okay. I got to get that out there for the Dolphins fans. I know you had guys down. But that Eagles secondary was depleted, and this was your chance. You had to run the ball, and the Eagles have done a great job all year of stopping the run game with a light box, and they forced them into 3rd and longs. At the end of the day, the Dolphins scored 10 points offensively. And for all the flash and flare, I think the Eagles just came in and said, hey, they're like a team. They're like a sports car, right? Like the Dolphins are like a sports car. Well, a nice flat F1 surface, that's like the Panthers – and whoever else they played, the Broncos, that sort of thing. The Eagles want to muddy things up, and they have the capability to do that. And even when the run game wasn't going, they just stuck with it. And I thought the D-line did a great job when they had the opportunity to pressure Tua. I talked about it coming into the game. Tua is as good as anybody in the league with a clean jersey, but when he's pressured, he's 40% completion, he's 48 passer rating. That sandwiches him between Zach Wilson and the other guy in the AFC East. I'm trying to remember the other guy, Mac Jones. So, no disrespect. I think he's a great player, but the formula against Tua is if you can pressure him, and with the game on the line, I did not think that was PI on Mostert. I'll give you the face mask for sure. I also didn't see anybody talking about Eli Apple getting there early on AJ Brown, the very possession before that, which got them off the field. But I think with the game on the line, you get pressure in the middle, and it hurt them that another guard went down and win. Tua throws a pop fly, and the Eagles cash in. I thought it was Jalen Hurts is going to take a lot of lumps. He would have took even more if he lost the game, but he played some hero ball in spots. And, I know the turnovers are up, but that 4th and 3, when you got to have it, it's terrifying. We talk about it on this show and my show all the time, Rich. Mm-hmm. When you are in that middle 8, the 4 minutes before the half, the 4 minutes after the half, things can change so quickly for you playing against the Dolphins. And I thought the Eagles having the balls to throw the ball on 4th and 3 in that situation, knowing if you give it back to them at about midfield, they might go down and score, and they come out of the half with the ball. Jalen Hurts making that throw in the backbreaker to A.J. Brown. I think he's playing hurt. And I think he did enough to win this game for them. I can't say enough about him. Imperfect, but just a gutsy performance.
Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show, and on the officiating. Do you think it's as bad as it ever right now, Chris Long? That's the general sense of it right now, that this is as bad as it's been. There were a couple of calls that went against Indianapolis in the end zone that allowed Cleveland the opportunity to pop it in on the 1-yard line and win that game at the very end. We saw the spotting of the football on a 4th down in Los Angeles that was way off. And clearly had there been a timeout in McVay's pocket, they would have been able to review it. I mean, those are just a couple, and it just seems to be a nonstop flurry, the one that happened at the end of the Bills and Giants. There just seems to be a nonstop flurry of these types of plays that one would think Sky Judge would be able to fix if there was the ability to just review everything or review things of this nature. Chris,
I gotta be honest, Rich. When I played, I thought the officiating was tough. Now, I also like Jeff Fisher, a good buddy of mine, my old ball coach. He was on competition committee. And one thing he always talks about is how much credit we need to give the officials for making tough calls. And I think they make tough calls all Sunday, every Sunday. And most times they don't get praise. They only get, it's like an offensive lineman's job.
Yep.
You don't talk about Lane Johnson until he gets beat for a sack, which, by the way, I think the guard was supposed to slide out. So just
good one.
Anybody that thinks he got beat finally for a sack, just take that into account. But I think the officiating is always going to be inconsistent. It's a really tough job. You have to overcome some bad calls. You have mechanisms in your back pocket. If you're Sean McVay, I understand you're taking timeouts to get it together on a third down that they actually convert earlier in the half. I know that they're taking timeouts in that situation because the Steelers are in 4-minute mode. But more than anything, there's always like a chance that the team that got burnt by a penalty can help themselves, right? Or there's always like hey, you can look back at Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson damn near blew the game for the Steelers, if I have that right in my head.
Yeah, he
had a conversion, and then he comes over and he's doing this, and he's taunting the guy, and then they got to go back again to Allen Robinson. They got to replay the down, right?
Yep.
So, like, the chips fell the wrong way for the Rams. I think they got hosed there, but there's no guarantee that they even win that game. I think the Steelers had played, they were playing tough defense at the time, and TJ had a big play to start the second half. That was huge.
It was.
And the calls for Miami, like, listen, if the Eagles 10 calls went against them, no calls against the Dolphins, I would note it. But that's not why you lost the game. Let's be real. You lost the game because the Eagles were more physical and they had the better game plan and they controlled the game from the outset. You don't want to be in a situation like that. Start faster. 5 of those penalties are pre-snap. Control what you can control. That was the big thing that they always told us in NFL locker rooms: control what you can control, and don't put yourself in positions where one bad call burns you. So I am sympathetic to a lot of those calls. I think the NFL needs to clean it up. But as we go on the fly here through the NFL season, there's going to be teams every week that get burnt by these calls.
Chris Long,
it's just the reality. Just the reality.
Chris Long, Greenlight podcast host right here on the Rich Eisen Show. We're nearing the midpoint of the season. I mean, the trade deadline is a week from this coming Tuesday. And, rubber's meeting road. You can kind of tell which teams are which in the NFL. So we've come up with a new segment within our segment, Chris.
Inception.
Here we go. It's called just exactly like Inception. It's very, very Christopher Nolan. Here we go. It's called Chris Long's Levels of Concern.
All right, move on. Nothing to see here. Please, it's Chris.
It's Chris Long's Level of Concern.
There you go. Very good. I like the Naked Gun. That was a very that was Naked Gun at the top.
Tremendous.
Excellent drop. All right, Chris. Now we got to come through. Your level of concern for the Buffalo Bills now is what?
My level of concern for the Buffalo Bills is like orange. Okay. Like, if we went off like the Tom Herman piss chart where, like it's brown at the bottom, you're dehydrated, you're a bad teammate.
Yes.
They're in the orange zone. Like they've passed the yellow zone, which is the middle.
Yes.
They're in the orange zone where I'm a little bit concerned about them. And a lot of it is because you got problems on both sides of the ball. Like you look at the Eagles right now, you kind of know, hey, the offense, it's sputtered at times relative to expectation, but they're scoring like 30 points a game. Okay. The Bills have been in repeat spots where they let an inferior team, and I want to give the Pats credit because I put something up on YouTube last night and it kind of centered around the Bills, and Pats fans are like, wait, we're the center of attention. Not when you're 2-5. Okay. Like it's about the team with Super Bowl aspirations that lost that game to a team that has trailed by 10 points or more in the first half, 5 of 6 games. And they flipped that script. And, I think the biggest cardinal sin for me as a defense is 2-minute drives at the end of the game. You Tyrod Taylor go and basically win the game if it's not for a no call. And then last week, I think they need a number 2. I think their passing game is deep or it's quick and there's no intermediate stuff. I have a lot of concern about them, but it starts with the injuries on defense. Games like this, you need your defense.
And your level of concern for the aforementioned Dolphins now? Do you have any?
There's no concern. I don't have concern. Like, for me to be concerned about the Dolphins, I would have to be surprised. Like, I think they're an elite football team and that they're going to be in the playoffs. They can win a playoff game. But when you talk about winning 3 playoff games in a row or 4 playoff games in a row, how do you figure you're going to do that when you're 0-6 against playoff teams since last September, when you beat the Ravens and the Bills? And I think what's even more concerning for the Dolphins is every time they get in a primetime spot, 15 points against the Bengals, 17 points against the Chargers. You can count the 425 last year against San Francisco, 16, 17 points there. They're 10 points offensively last night. They turn into a different team in these big spots, and I'm just calling it how I see it. So if you have Super Bowl aspirations for them, I would be concerned about how they play against top talent. But they're going to play themselves into the playoffs, and then they have to go do this thing that they haven't been able to do. So I would say medium, yellow.
So what would if you're the Dolphins do? Because clearly now you've lost to 2 physical front sevens, and one in division, one out of conference. What do you do?
The reason I'm not orange on the Dolphins, Rich, is because they're going to get Xavier Howard back. They're going to get Jalen Ramsey back. I thought the defense played really well last night in spots, although in some spots they couldn't get off the field. I think for this team to be healthy, to be rolling, if they can get some guys back up front, they're dangerous. They're really dangerous, but they've yet to beat an actual playoff team in about a calendar year.
All right, Chris Long in the middle of the very first. By the way, I think this is going to stick. This is the pilot episode of Chris Long's level of concerns. So the level of concern for the Lions after getting absolutely eviscerated in Baltimore. Do you have one for the Lions, Chris?
Yellow. Again, it's a team. I would put them in the Dolphins class, although they've actually passed some of their tests against good teams. They were playing left-handed, right? They're playing outside, which is not where they want to be. I said this on my show last week. Mm-hmm. If they want to win playoff games, they've got to host them. In January, in January with Jared Goff outside. Yesterday was like a little preview of some elements that wouldn't be exactly perfect. I mean, a gusts of 13, 15 miles an hour. You're playing left-handed without a running back, and more than anything, if you can't get pass rush, I thought the Ravens played lights out, and Lamar looked terrific. So I think this is a stinker for them. But again, I don't think this means they can't go where they were trying to go before. They're going to have games like this because they're not built to play from behind. I would put the panic meter at yellow for them. They have a soft schedule the rest of the way. Keep winning games. Buy yourself a home game in the playoffs if you can.
What about your level of concern for the Los Angeles Chargers? Where does that stand?
Red alert. I felt yesterday, and I'll say this, Rich, it kind of felt like in 7 different ways, the Chiefs saying, that's your best shot. That first half, they go toe-to-toe with them. It's just like the beginning of Brandon Staley's tenure, and I jumped out of the gym for it. You got this talented rookie QB on a rookie deal. Now he's not anymore. So good luck with surrounding him with talent. This was their best shot as of late as an organization to get in the picture in the AFC West, and the Chiefs have completely changed the way they do business, and they did it while keeping you at bay over the last 2-3 years. And it's just like the rivalry. The first couple games, you were like, oh, we're going to have something. I think yesterday they closed the door on the Chargers in the AFC West. I think they closed the door on Brandon Staley's tenure. Wow. And I think this was like a, hey, see y'all down the line. Really? That is, yeah, they're 2-4. No. I mean, like, look at their schedule coming up. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I picked the Chargers to win the West. I'm an idiot. All right. I'm an accountable idiot because I've kept on being like, hey, one of these years they're going to figure it out. And the Chiefs, some of these deficiencies like the receiver core or Chris Jones holding out. At that point, I want a mulligan because he came back. But like this was going to be the year. And, if you can't strike while the iron's hot with the quarterback young on a rookie deal the last couple of years, you can't do it this year. When are you ever going to do it? Yeah, the coach said Staley said, I want a reset. The team needs a reset. They just came off of a bye and have lost 2 in a row, What kind of reset do you need? And then on top of it, it's like Travis Kelce, he's the one guy you can't let beat you. How does that happen? Derwin James. How does that happen? I don't know because because Derwin James is the one guy in division. Sometimes you bring guys in or you have guys that you're like, he's going to take away somebody in division. They have never held Travis Kelce down. And yesterday, with the whole season on the line, in my opinion, they couldn't do it. And I think Patrick Mahomes, more than anything, is just a wizard. And this was an opportunity where all week you had Russell Wilson stats next to his. Like, what are we doing on TV? Like, we just run out of things to talk about. He is Patrick Mahomes. And yesterday he proved it. And the middle of the field is where he killed them. He killed them in the intermediate. He killed them in the middle of the field. And those extended downs, if you can't get rush on him, Travis is going to kill you every time. They have connected their last 28 connections. They haven't missed a single connection. 1 in 3,000 chance, Rich.
Well, the question is, again, you're my defensive guy here. How does Kelce get so wide open when you know? And by the way, in a way that he doesn't against others. He didn't against the Jets. He didn't against Denver. Not like this. I mean, obviously he's damn near like Jamar Chase, always effing open, but he's just standing by himself in the middle of the field.
If he's not open, and that's the confounding thing, because when I played for Bill for a year, you learn like he was going to erase somebody, and it was like, we're not going to let Travis Kelce beat us, whether it was shipping him off the line, which was annoying as a rusher because you're like, oh, now I can't rush, but like eventually, if you're bracketing, if you got somebody over the top of him, like a cloud kind of thing, but it just feels like he's just wide open. Like you said yesterday in this game. And when he's not open, he's going to be open in 2 seconds. And I think that's the backbreaking stuff. I talked about the Chargers coming in 3rd and 11 plus, like 3rd and long, 3rd and 8 to 12 in that range. Staley last week was talking about, hey, we're the best in the league. We're one of the best in the leagues on 3rd and longs. But when you adjust for penalties, they're in the bottom of the league. And they've been getting burnt on these 3rd and longs for years with Travis Kelce. And if you can't get off the field against these guys, they're just the way they can run the ball now, play complimentary football, it's a long day.
And I'm not even going to, by the way, great level of concern, first foray. I thought that was excellent, Chris.
No problem.
Well, because we're in that time of year. I mean, I'm not going to do it every single time.
We're in the green zone. I'm not concerned about the segment.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
But the Raiders, what do you think's going on in that locker room right now with Maxx Crosby doing what he's doing, and then, Tyson Bagent beats them, and Brian Hoyer pick sixes, and that's when they put Aiden O'Connell in. Like, there's a lot of head scratchers happening there, and Davante Adams is kind of holding his tongue despite being one of the most, sodium pentothal guys in the league. What do you make of this, Chris, before I let you go? Here.
Man, it's tough being in a division with the Chiefs. It's like, it just feels like just disappointment city. And for the Raiders over the last couple of years, just not being able to close any distance. It's got to be frustrating for Davante Adams, who basically picks up and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, he was trying to fix it, and he wasn't sure about Aaron's future and that sort of thing. You end up in Vegas. It's just been a hellish couple of years for him with just everything he's been through. And for Maxx, I really feel that. I mean, I used to be a rusher on a very bad team. I think I had 13 on a 2-14 team. Like, you're looking around like, what else can I do? And how much better would my life be somewhere else? I don't think Maxx wants out. He seems like a Raider for life to me. I mean, he seems like a perfectly branded Raider. And my only advice to him would be just keep your head down and keep playing your ass off, because people see it. And I think, looking at for like a Maxx Crosby or a Davante Adams, because I can't tell those guys anything, but what I can tell them is about being on bad teams. And I would just say, like, play so that you stand out on a bad team, so that people have to take notice of how resilient you are when they turn the tape on. This Maxx Crosby's crazy. Why is he playing so hard? This team's trash. Well, it doesn't matter, because he's got bigger goals. I think he's a Hall of Fame type talent. I know my dad talked about that this week. He's kind of the Raiders' gatekeeper, loves Maxx Crosby. I feel for these guys, man. And such a storied franchise to be in the dumps for so long.
Yeah, and he's his next game is on Monday night to wrap up Week 8. He went to Eastern Michigan. He'll be playing in Detroit, which, as you know, is ready to, bury film and turn a page and just start biting somebody else's kneecap off. Who's your Who's your guest this week? What do you got for me on Green Light Pod, sir? What do you got?
This week, there is should we tell them, guys? Maybe. We got a good chance of getting a very good Steeler. Okay. I've been gunning for TJ Watt for a while, and there's a good chance we get the man himself.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
We got an AFC North guy.
He almost had a pick six. That was what a way to start that half after the Rams and the almost middle-aided them, to use your phrase, with a touchdown on either side possibility, and he flipped the script, and things changed. Question. Chris, thanks for the time. Love it. Always.
Rich, appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
All right, see you.
Right back at you. Host of Green Light with Chris Long podcast, the man himself. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.